Imagine building a software program that detects early-stage Alzheimer's from a simple brain scan years before symptoms appear. Now imagine locking that software in a desk drawer and never letting a single doctor use it. Not because it does not work, but because you cannot afford the stack of legal paperwork required to turn it on. This is not a hypothetical scenario. In mid-2026, this is the reality playing out across Europe. While the public is focused on flashy generative chatbots, a quieter crisis is unfolding in research labs and mid-sized enterprises. A massive legal shift called the European Union AI Act has officially come into full effect, and its first major casualty is the very innovation it was supposed to make safe. Most people think the EU AI Act only targets dangerous, weaponized technologies or invasive mass surveillance systems. But that is where everyone is wrong. The law is built on a scale of risk, and the most volatile category is what regulators call high-risk systems. Under Annex III of the Act, if your software is used to make decisions about human health, workplace employment, education scoring, or credit worthiness, it is automatically flagged. It does not matter if your tool is a harmless helper designed to assist human decisions. The moment your code touches these sensitive areas, you enter a regulatory zone of heavy oversight. For a giant technology firm, this is a minor speed bump. For a university spin-off with a team of 5 developers, it is a brick wall. To understand why developers are struggling, we have to look at what academic researchers call the 222 problem. Published studies tracking ethical AI frameworks have identified 3 critical flaws in modern tech regulation. First, there are simply too many high-level ethical initiatives happening at once. Second, the principles themselves are too abstract, lacking any practical relevance. And third, the laws focus far too much on restrictions and risks, completely ignoring the tangible benefits of the technology. When a regulator tells a software developer that their algorithm must be transparent and fair, they do not provide a library of code to make that happen. There is no mathematical definition of fairness that satisfies every legal department. The engineer is left to guess, and in the world of high-risk compliance, guessing carries a multi-million-euro penalty. Think of the high-risk compliance process like a massive concrete shipping canal lock. To pass through to the commercial market, a piece of software must balance the water levels of 3 heavy chambers. The first chamber is technical documentation, which requires logging every single piece of data used to train the system. The second is human-in-the-loop engineering, meaning you must build a physical interface that allows a human operator to override the software at any second. The third is continuous risk management, which requires constant auditing even after the software is sold. A massive container ship, representing a tech giant with unlimited cash and a dedicated legal crew, can sit in this lock for months, pay the fees, and sail through. A small startup is like a wooden sailboat. The sheer turbulence of the regulatory water levels and the overhead costs will capsize it before it ever reaches the open ocean. This dynamic is not theoretical. Consider a prominent case study from mid-2026 involving an AI model designed to predict early-onset Alzheimer's disease risk. The tool uses deep learning to find tiny, microscopic changes in brain structures long before clinical symptoms show up. It is highly accurate and could give patients years of lead time to start preventative treatment. But because this tool directly impacts medical diagnostics, it is classified as a high-risk system under the Act. To bring it to clinics, the university spin-off that built it must perform a mandatory conformity assessment. This requires hiring external auditors, paying for continuous liability mapping, and rewriting the core code to allow manual human overrides at every step of the neural network. Lacking the budget to pay for these audits, the spin-off chose to freeze the project, leaving a potentially life-saving diagnostic tool stranded as a static research paper. The chill extends beyond medicine into everyday workplace tools. Another major research evaluation from 2026 highlights an AI system built to predict work disability risks. The goal of this tool was to help large employers identify which workers were at high risk of burnout or physical strain, allowing the company to step in early with ergonomic support or mental health days. However, under Annex III, any AI used in employment, worker management, and access to self-employment is classified as high risk. Because the system calculates a score that could theoretically be misused to fire an employee, the law treats it with the same level of suspicion as an invasive surveillance algorithm. Confronted with the immense burden of proving to regulators that the system could never be biased, the developers abandoned the commercial launch. A tool designed to protect workers from injury was ultimately killed by the very laws meant to protect them. This situation reveals a glaring irony. The EU AI Act was heavily lobbied by consumer advocates who wanted to curb the power of massive tech conglomerates. Yet, the law has triggered what economists call the bigness paradox. For a global tech company, a €1 million compliance budget is a rounding error. They can hire entire departments of safety engineers and policy experts to fill out the paperwork. By raising the cost of market entry so high, the regulator has inadvertently built a massive economic moat around these legacy giants. Smaller, local players who cannot afford the legal fees are shut out. Instead of fostering a diverse ecosystem of ethical, local software, the market is consolidated into the hands of the few massive firms that can afford to survive the compliance process. We are now entering what experts call the compliance chasm. The transition from academic research to practical, real-world deployment has become too expensive for almost anyone outside of the elite tech circle. The EU AI Act was designed to make Europe the global leader in safe, trustworthy technology. But if the rules make it impossible to build that technology in the first place, the region risks becoming a museum of ideas, dependent entirely on imported, sterilized tools built elsewhere. As the final implementation deadlines pass throughout 2026, the question is no longer whether we can build AI that helps humanity, but whether we will ever be legally allowed to use it.